everybody, it's Mickey. I'm so glad that you are here. Today's video is going to be all about decorating. I have been in such a mood to just change things up around the house, and I'm going to be sharing with you so many wonderful things that are going to help me do just that. I'm also going to share with you some of the vintage and antique items that I found on my trip through the Midwest. If you are new here, I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe. I put out new videos every week about all things home. My home style these days has been floating around more of a modern cottage with vintage pieces, a little bit of farmhouse, a little bit of antiques. I don't think I really have a definitive style. I think it's more I just gather pieces together in hopes that it creates a really cozy home. I have been loving going into antique stores and thrift stores to find those little pieces that you can tuck here and there to create that cozy, comfortable feel to each room. So here in my family room, I have these beautiful plaid chairs. I've had them for years and I do just love them. But I wanted to soften them up a little bit to kind of ease them into my lighter color scheme and downplay the red. I've tried putting blankets and throws over the back, but it just didn't do exactly what I had hoped for. But then I found these beautiful pillows that are just perfect. I originally saw them on the Antique Farmhouse website, but they were a little bit too expensive for me. And then I found them, of all places, at Home Depot for almost $15 less, and I jumped on them. I think that these are some of the most beautiful pillows that I have found anywhere. I just love the large crochet trim all around the whole pillow with these big, beautiful tassels. I think these details give it such a big present, and it does exactly the job that I had hoped that it would in the most beautiful way. I also want to soften up my sofa a little bit as well and add some of these big fluffy pillows to my sectional. So I've already ordered a few more of these along with a couple accent pillows to go along with it. I will be sure to share the results with you in my next decorating video. I'm also going to leave the link to these pillows down below for you. Not only are they beautiful, but they are of such good quality as well. My chalk painted china cabinet has always been one of my most favorite things to decorate in my home, and I like to add a piece of art to it, you know, for a season or a holiday. Recently, I have had the best luck with beautiful art pieces from a website called Mulberry Market Designs. They are a company that specializes in vintage art and wooden signs. That's where I found that adorable rabbit art piece that you see. I recently ordered another piece from them, which I think is just so simple and so beautiful. I really do seem to have a thing for old rustic barns. I have so many of them around my home, and when I saw this piece on their website, I knew that it was coming home to me. I was able to get it the perfect size to fit under my cabinet, and I love that it has that whitewashed frame to it, and to me it is just muted and peaceful with little touches of green, brown, and white, perfect to fit in my family room. I use a lot of wood pieces as a base for many of my displays and arrangements. I think that they just help highlight and ground them, especially on a countertop or table. I found such a great one on Amazon. It's that perfect size to fit on my smaller island and just enough room to, you know, like add a candle, a photo, and a little bit of decor. This tray also goes really well with the Lazy Susan that I have on my kitchen table every day of the year. It has a beautiful black band to it and black handles on each side, and I am so looking forward to decorating with it. You know, sometimes you come across things that you forget that you have even in your own collection, and this breadboard that I have on my dining room table right now is one of them. I bought this probably like over a decade ago when I was really into primitive decor, and I used it for such a long time, and then I just must have put it away. I recently came across it and could not believe that I was not using it. It is just so beautiful and well done. I remember I purchased it from an ad that was in the Country Sampler magazine way back when, and I used it for years. I really love the way that it looks on my dining room table. I like the contrast of the lighter wood and the darker wood, and it really does give a nice large space to do a little bit of an arrangement. And trays are always so great because they make it easy for you to just pick them up when you want to, add a tablecloth, and have a meal. So this next item that I came across is so beautiful and simple and just something that I use all the time. This is a Victorian cast iron twine holder that I found, believe it or not, at Walmart. I had seen these across so many vintage websites, but again, the prices were just so high. But Walmart came through and this was under $25. I use twine for so many things. I use it to tie my bows, to tie decor, to wreaths that I make. I use twine all the time in crafting, and I thought this was such a beautiful and vintage looking display that I just had to pick it up. And thankfully Walmart came through and had it where I could save a few dollars. It was even cheaper than Amazon. So my husband and I took a road trip out to visit a couple of my kids in Indiana and the Midwest, and along the way we stopped at antique stores and antique malls, and I have to say there were so many awesome things that I wanted to bring home with me. But because we were traveling, I was sticking to small decor pieces. I had created a list of things that I was looking for before we left, and I checked off almost all of them. I would love nothing more than to fill my whole house with antiques because I just love the history behind these old treasures that have led such a long and useful life. But like everyone, I am really limited on space and resources. But I cannot wait to show you the things that I did pick up. So those of you who have known me for a while know that I am a very, very sentimental person. And the first item that I found on our trip could not have been more sentimental to me. I have been looking for this cookie jar for over 20 years. This is the Owl Cookie Stories cookie jar by Ransbottom Pottery in Roseville, Ohio. This was my childhood cookie jar. My mom received it as a shower gift in the late 50s, and it was our cookie jar all the years that I was growing up. Somehow he had gotten broken when my parents moved out of Ohio, and he was so greatly missed. I have seen him online for various amounts of money, anywhere from like $50 all the way up to over $200, and I was never confident enough on the delivery to make the purchase. On our trip, I turned an antique corner and it was sitting by itself on a shelf, almost calling my name. I got very teary-eyed and immediately purchased it to bring it home. I just love this cookie jar so much. I have so many memories when I was a little girl eating my Oreo cookies out of it and trying to balance his cap on my head. And to have a replica of that in my hands finally after all these years, I could not be happier. Now, not to get too like spiritually woo-woo or anything, but these are the types of things that really make my heart skip a beat. I do believe that at times something is placed in your path for you to find that brings back such strong memories of happiness, especially from your childhood. And I think that they are placed there by the people in your life that you have loved the most as kind of an acknowledgement that they see you, that they're watching over you. The week before my trip, my brother and I were having a conversation where this cookie jar came up, We were laughing about something silly that my mom did when we were growing up, and I do think that this was an absolute sign from my mom to tell us that she was listening and watching over us. So now that we've had a minute to gather ourselves, when we started off on this trip, I had a list with me of all the things that I was looking for. And high on that list were kitchen tools, especially some vintage cookie cutters and hand tools. And I was able to check so many things off my list. The first thing that I found was a 1940s A&J super speed hand mixer that was used for, beating eggs or cake batter or whatever you needed. For the age that it is in such good condition. I just love that it has, that peely green paint on top. The mechanism still works really well, and I think it is perfect to have on display somewhere here in the kitchen. I also found a 1930s Wonder Shredder that is in really good condition. I've come across these before, and not many of them still have the wooden handle attached to it, so I was really happy to find one that was all intact. I am always on the lookout for vintage cookie cutters. I just think that they are so beautiful, and I don't make them like they used to. I am particularly looking for heart-shaped cookie cutters, and I was so happy to have come across these 3 metal heart-shaped cookie cutters. I love that they were all different shapes of hearts, and they will be perfect to add to my collection. I also came across this green wooden handled cookie cutter. I see a lot of this type out in the stores, but I mostly see red handled cookie cutters, and I love the fact that I was able to find a green one. Green is my favorite color, and it's the main color that I use in my home decor, and I really hope to be able to find more of these to add to my collection. Another thing that I had on my list was a wooden shoe mold. They are very, very collectible right now. I was hoping to be able to find a children's shoe mold just because, obviously they are much smaller, easier to add as a piece of decor. And I was really lucky enough to find this beautiful wooden children's shoe mold that the vendor had already tied a vintage photo to with a little bit of fabric, and I just loved it immediately. So much so that when I got home, I immediately put it in my tier tray. This is the only shoe mold that I have, and I am so happy to have found it. I have been looking for a vintage iron for such a long time. I had found one last year and passed on it, and I have regretted it ever since. So finding a vintage iron was really high on my list for this trip, and I was able to find 2. The first iron I found, I really don't have a lot of information about. I found it at a flea market from a private family who didn't have any information on it either. It looks as if it had been repainted with some gold paint, which is fine. I only paid $5 for it, and I have been using it as a doorstop in my laundry room. Now the other iron I'm a little bit more familiar with. This is an Ober iron from Chagrin Falls, Ohio, circa around 1880s. It is in really great shape. It's about 10 pounds. It has such an ornate handle. You can read all the etchings on it so that you can trace it back to its origin, and I love any antique that I can do that with. I plan on using this iron in a display either here in the kitchen or in my laundry room. I think this iron is really so beautiful. It's even more ornate than the original iron that I found last year, so I am glad that I had waited. This iron was only $10. The one last year was $40, so I think I made a really good buy. I love the fact that I know a little bit about the history, and I love the fact that it's also from Ohio. So thank you all so much for watching my antique vintage decor haul video. Be sure to check the description box for any links that I mentioned in today's video, and be sure to check back for my upcoming Decorate With Me video where I'm going to share what I have done with all of these awesome items that I have collected. Join our communities over on Facebook and Instagram at My Bashful Life, and please don't forget to subscribe. I'd love to have you all back as part of our YouTube family. So until I see you in that next video, I hope that you love the life that you have, be kind to each other, stay safe, and I will see you again soon. Bye!